In 2020, Aston Martin began a new chapter in its history. The DBX started to roll out of the St Athan production facility in July that year, and did so with the unmistakable Aston Martin features, including swan hinge doors, the signature grille, which was the largest ever fitted to an Aston Martin model, and its Q program customization. All of this on a car that almost all competitors featured a shared platform. The DBX, though, is something fairly unique.
Now, the car industry has long been going through a consolidation to eke out every penny of profit and to reduce costs wherever possible. And so, it is extremely rare for a manufacturer to shout, all new car, all new platform, all new factory. Ladies and gentlemen, the Aston Martin DBX.
However, I should note that while the DBX is exceptional for being a unique vehicle platform, it does share many features with Mercedes, who own part of Aston Martin. The engine, infotainment, gearbox, along with a range of ancillary items. The engine is also found in both the Vantage and the DB12. The DBX was revised in 2024, 4 years after its initial release. The 2025 model year also adds a model which we'll come on to in a moment. First though, used buyers should note that if there is one area on the DBX that has been an annoyance to owners, it was the infotainment system. Understandably, due to cost, the DBX is fitted with a Mercedes system. However, this is a non-touchscreen model with wired Apple CarPlay. There are companies that can offer aftermarket dongles to make a wired connection wireless, but it is not a factory item, and the system is a little dated if you are used to newer systems. In 2024, Aston answered this criticism by making the DBX the first car to be fitted with Apple CarPlay Ultra, the latest system that moves infotainment to the next generation, where it is native rather than a car manufacturer's system with added CarPlay. This also extends to the instrument cluster, using a manufacturer identity, but a CarPlay system. All of this is to say that if having seamless car infotainment is as important as the engine to you, you'll want an updated model.
Now, the update added an interior redesign, which includes the dashboard and switchgear. On the outside, it is mainly just the wing mirrors that are changed, although there are some subtle changes throughout, all to slightly improve the aero efficiency. The major change for 2025 is the loss of the standard DBX model. Entering the model is now the 707, so if you prefer the subtle styling of the standard model, then you'll need to be looking for a vehicle made from 2020 to 2024.
A quick side note is that the DBX models are fitted with a V8 engine, unless you are in China. The Chinese market was sent a model from 2021 that is an inline-6 engine sourced from AMG and coded M256. I won't cover this model in detail as it was limited in sales and region to China only, but the model has 429 brake horsepower. Speaking of specification, the entry model for the world is the DBX 4-litre V8, sold from 2020 to 2024. A special edition named 1913 was released early on with different badging and sills. All cars are eligible for Aston Martin's Q program and could be commissioned in several bespoke features, from specific leather to bodywork finishes in carbon fibre. Note that the DBX does have factory options offered from the dealer, whilst bespoke features or a factory option selected from the Q program are separate. For example, carbon fibre trim in a herringbone pattern or satin xenon grey paintwork. The two model names that are sent to Q as part of the production are the DBX Carbon and the DBX Bowmore. The latter features the archived Bowmore paint as standard. I'll note 2022 added wireless charging, a Sport Seat Plus option, and a driver assist package. After this is the DBX 707, introduced in 2022 and continuing on sale as the car is refreshed in 2024. The 707 is now the entry into DBX ownership as of 2025.
Now, there are a range of modifications for the 707 model, the most obvious being the exterior visual changes. However, the engine is also retuned to have 707 PS, which is metric horsepower. You'll hear me mention 697 later, which is brake horsepower.
Several carbon fibre trim items are standard, and quad exhausts along with a wet clutch add to the engine upgrades to supply the user with additional power over the standard model. Soft closed doors are a standard feature from 2023. As before, the Q program was also in effect with Q options, plus the factory AMR 23, a DBX 707 from the Q team featuring podium green paintwork, as seen on the DBX F1 medical car. Then for 2024, the introduction of a new range-topping DBX The S is lighter and more powerful than the 707, as it had been for the DB9 and Vanquish before it. The S targets buyers that prefer performance over all else. The 47kg or 103-pound weight reduction comes thanks to a carbon fibre roof and magnesium wheels, while the new exhaust system is louder and the steering ratio is 4% faster. In many ways, this was Aston Martin's offering to customers that may have been tempted by the Ferrari Purosangue, which it has 2 more horsepower than, so go steady if you're thinking of getting one. Used buyers should note that sales years have been mixed, with 2021 and 2023 not far behind, so you'll find the widest choice in those years. A drop in sales in 2024 reflects the loss of the standard car and the time delay of new models reaching dealers, so expect 2025 sales to show a bounce, but with the car now more expensive than ever before, it is unlikely 2022 will be outdone for sales years. On to safety, and neither Euro NCAP or IIHS have tested the DBX, which is no surprise given its limited volume. As the chassis is unique to the DBX, I can't suggest its score based on another model either, but it will have to conform with both European and American minimum safety standards for sale. Next up are the common faults, but a reminder to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content, and a reminder that channel memberships and our new Patreon account are open if you'd like to support the channel.
Now, I will preface that because this is a low volume vehicle, the data can be skewed on common faults. So what we've tried to do is just mention the ones that owners have mentioned the most. However, as I say, this may mean that on a mass market car, some of these wouldn't have come up just because fairly low numbers can get skewed here and make them seem more common than they are. We've tried to do what we can to just mention the ones that are most important to you when you go to buy one.
No surprises here, the infotainment led the way in complaints due to its older architecture that was susceptible to crashes or lagging. For the most part, early issues with the system crashing have been resolved, and most owners now just accept the system isn't as fast as others. An issue with the tailgate module was reported on 2020, 2021 and 2022 production cars. This could stop the boot opening and closing as it should. A suspension issue warning not to exceed 50 miles per hour or 80 kilometers per hour is usually rated to a software glitch rather than a hardware issue. The air suspension has actually been relatively robust so far. 2 issues that are generally isolated to 2020 and 2021 cars are windscreen cracks and the washer bottle failing. Owners found that the washer bottle that was replaced under warranty usually was fine and has been on the car for years without issue. The windscreen was a difficult problem as dealers were reluctant to accept this as a warranty claim, meaning some owners paid out of pocket, as it was claimed the car must have been struck by a stone or road debris, while owners felt the cracks formed from the edge of the glass as it was contact with the bodywork due to improper fitment at factory. Either way, both are worth looking out for any signs of cracks when viewing a car. Although the internet law of all British cars having bad electronics is usually based on Jaguars from the 80s, the DBX did have a few struggles, although I should stress most were software issues or sensors, which appear common across cars today. If the sensor was a standard item from Mercedes, you may be able to find a deal online if you can get the part number, but overall complaints were loudest in 2020 and into 2021. By 2022, many DBX owners felt the car was as reliable from an electronics standpoint as any other new cars they had owned. One area that was hit or miss was dealer service. Some owners have had no fuss, but they are generally the ones that only rely on the dealer for servicing. Customers that have had issues and needed to wait for a repair have had a variety of complaints. Many were justifiably annoyed at the dealer brushing off issues that shouldn't exist, like phones not connecting, cold start hiccups, or advanced wear of the interior or interior faults, but can generally be accepted by owners of hand-built cars if the service received is efficient, well communicated, and with a focus on getting the car back to the owner working as quickly as possible. One major challenge was dealers' lack of courtesy vehicles. Many are used to owners dropping in their sports car and then using one of their other cars. However, DBX owners generally used the car as their daily driver and weren't keen on the idea of slipping out whatever special car they had in the garage for summer weekends during a blizzard in January, as they had no alternate transport. Many owners, though, have had better experiences with dealers, so where you are will dictate the service. On a test drive, it's worth having a few dashes of acceleration, followed by fairly stern braking. The aim here is to show how the gearbox reacts. The standard DBX won't be lightning fast, but should respond to your changing speeds quickly, while 707 models should be very alert. Any obvious delay is possibly a software issue, although, as these cars may have been driven harder than some SUVs, a gearbox oil service would be a positive buying sign if done at least once in cars over 3 years old. As mentioned, these are low volume vehicles, so a small number of issues can make it into the list that wouldn't be considered on a larger production vehicle. However, owner feedback across sources seems to be accepting that the car was unlikely to run like a Swiss watch, and most issues have been inconveniences rather than leaving owners stranded. Onto the recalls, and a quick reminder to check out the Miles Driven book. In 2021, there were 2 recalls, the first for front drive shafts to check torque application at factory, as some were found to have out-of-tolerance attachments, the other for missing foam blocks in the headliner, fitted to comply with USA regulations requiring unbelted passengers' safety in an accident. In 2024, there was a recall for 2023 and 2024 DBX 707 models due to the oil cooler hose risking breaking and causing engine damage. This was followed by another recall in 2024 for cars built from 2021 to 2024 due to an issue where the battery fuse box cables may be loose after a handful of cars were identified at dealers. Affected cars had these secured at the correct factory tolerance. In 2025, a larger scale recall for across Aston Martin models built in 2024 and 2025 was declared due to the backup camera becoming obstructed. If you suffer this issue and are awaiting repair, a workaround is to run the car for 30 seconds at idle, then select reverse, as it should still function correctly. A current recall is currently rolling out for 2024 and some 2025 cars due to a software recall. As far as I can see, this affects US cars only to reflect a US safety standard in the infotainment. Next up are the engines, or I should say engine and its variants. The 4-litre AMG engine is coded M177 and has either 542, 697 or 717 brake horsepower in varying states of tune. These are set to Aston Martin requirements. Official WLTP fuel economy of the standard model is rated at 19.7 miles per gallon or 14.34 litres per 100 kilometres. The 707 model gets ball-bearing turbochargers, which the S keeps, and enhances engine mapping and exhaust flow to increase power further. However, torque is matched between both cars. Towing on all models is rated at 2,700 kilograms or 5,950 pounds. As I've reported on several Mercedes before, coils, injectors and valve cover gaskets are the main complaint areas on the engine, although I should say that this is in a sea of positive reviews. The AMG M177 engine, being celebrated by many in the enthusiast community as both character-filled and powerful, but also reliable, and because of this there isn't much to add. And while I did find owners reporting having issues with the injectors needing replacing under warranty for a poor starting issue, these were isolated and rare, and most DBX owners, whichever variant they have found the engine to be reliable and a sturdy unit so far.
Now, a quick note here is that Aston Martin have stuck with the M177 engine. They're not using the higher horsepower design from Mercedes, which is the M178 that you find in the AMG GT model. That does find its way into one Aston Martin, which is the Valhalla.
Onto Alpix, and with the standard DBX model from 2021 now losing the limelight behind the later 707 and new S model, if you can live with the infotainment, this could be a great used buy, especially if you can extend into a 2020 model with the minor upgrades added. For those less worried about price, the 707 brings something to the hyperpower SUV market that few can replicate. Blistering speed, luxury, and a styling true to the brand and its history of Aston Martin. Some may not like supercar SUVs, but as SUV supercars go, this one walks to the front of the line and competes with companies that have long accepted that their SUVs wouldn't be a unique creation, but an adaptation of a different chassis. Aston Martin could have asked Mercedes for a GLE platform and made it look like an Aston. Instead, the investors behind the brand showed their commitment to its history, and in doing so, its future.